Minneapolis, Minnesota, a city known for its bustling downtown and close-knit suburban neighborhoods. But in the summer of 2023, one suburb became the center of a horrifying story that would shake the nation. Emily Carter, a bright 21-year-old college senior, vanished without a trace after what seemed like the opportunity of a lifetime. What began as a dream job turned into a nightmare that exposed a dark, hidden world, one that preys on trust and ambition. This is the story of her disappearance, the family's desperate search, and the courageous rescue that brought her back. Emily Carter was no ordinary student. At 21 years old, she was weeks away from graduating at the top of her journalism program. A natural storyteller, Emily dreamed of becoming an investigative journalist, exposing corruption and shining a light on injustice. Her professors admired her, her friends adored her, and her family couldn't have been prouder. But even the brightest stars can't always see the darkness lurking in the shadows.
Despite her success, Emily felt the pressure mounting. Her student loans were piling up, and her part-time job at the campus bookstore barely covered her rent. She worried constantly about what the future held. Then one evening, as she worked late into the night, an email popped up in her inbox, an email that seemed to be the answer to all her worries.
The email was from a company called Horizon Media. They claimed to be an international organization seeking freelance writers to cover a high-profile conference in Chicago. The pay? $2,000 for a single weekend of work. For Emily, it felt like a lifeline. The job promised experience, exposure, and a chance to network with some of the biggest names in journalism. Eager to seize the opportunity, Emily replied immediately. Within hours, she received a response from Sarah Blake, the supposed hiring manager for Horizon Media. Sarah invited her to a meeting the next day to discuss the job in detail. Emily couldn't believe her luck. The next day, Emily met with Sarah Blake. Sarah explained that Emily would be responsible for conducting interviews with speakers and writing feature articles for the conference's website. The details were vague, but Sarah's confidence was convincing. She handed Emily a contract, which seemed legitimate. With the promise of high pay and a glowing recommendation, Emily signed on the spot. The following morning, Emily boarded a train bound for Chicago. She was filled with excitement and anticipation, imagining the opportunities that awaited her. But halfway through the journey, the train made an unscheduled stop in a small, unfamiliar town. Standing on the platform was a man holding a sign with her name. James claimed he was there to escort her to the conference. Emily hesitated, but eventually followed him to a waiting car. As the vehicle pulled away from the station and headed down a desolate highway, her excitement began to waver. The further they drove, the more uneasy Emily became. When she reached for her phone to make a call, James snatched it from her hand, his smile vanishing. "No distractions," he said coldly. Emily's stomach dropped. Something was very wrong. The house wasn't a hotel or conference center. It was a prison. Inside, Emily found herself in a dimly lit basement with 3 other young women. Their faces were pale, their eyes hollow. The traffickers stripped Emily of her belongings and began calling her by a number, 27. Her nightmare had begun.
When Emily stopped responding to her texts, her mom, Karen, knew something was wrong. She contacted the local police, but they dismissed her concerns, suggesting that Emily had simply lost her phone or been too busy to reply. Unsatisfied, Karen reached out to a family friend, Detective Mark Peterson, who had a reputation for solving missing person cases. Peterson quickly discovered that Horizon Media didn't exist. The email address was linked to a series of trafficking cases across the Midwest. Surveillance footage from the train station revealed the man who had picked Emily up, James Porter, a known trafficker with ties to an international network. With this new information, Peterson contacted the FBI. Meanwhile, Emily wasn't waiting to be rescued. Late one night, as the traffickers argued upstairs, she and Mia worked to pry open the bars of a basement window. They were almost free when the door creaked open behind them. Their attempt failed, but Emily refused to lose hope. She knew she had to survive long enough for help to arrive. Back in Minneapolis, the FBI had traced Emily's location to the remote property. At dawn, they launched a raid. Chaos erupted as agents stormed the house, taking the traffickers by surprise. Emily and the other captives were found alive. As she stepped outside, blinking in the sunlight, Emily felt an overwhelming sense of relief. Her nightmare was finally over. Emily's testimony was critical in convicting the traffickers. James Porter and his associates were sentenced to life in prison, and their network was dismantled. But Emily's journey was far from over. The trauma of her experience lingered, but she refused to let it define her. She founded Freedom's Voice, a non-profit organization dedicated to raising awareness about human trafficking and supporting survivors. Her story became a beacon of hope, inspiring others to fight back against this hidden evil.